Alright, YouTube, I'm very happy to announce Occult Literature video number 74, The Greater Key of Solomon, one of Mather's, Samuel McGregor Liddell Mather's releases. Elaborate, long, infamous, you name it, it's got it. Book of ceremonial rites connected to summoning, sort of a counterpart to the Lesser Key of Solomon, sort of the Ars Gotia tradition. This is a little bit less diabolical, but it's not substantially shorter. It's extremely detailed. It's extremely in-depth, and if I fully modernize the format so that the typesetting was a bit larger, would be almost 200 pages. It's 168 in the format I used. It was illustrated by the very talented Elisa Fausteris, who I used as an illustrator for this work, because honestly, there's no way that I could have done the specific kind of illustrations that are in here. I would have had to trace them and scan them. I couldn't do anything like freehand, number one, and number two, the end result, it'd take a while. The end result probably wouldn't look as good. Now, as always, there's a link in the description to where you can purchase my edition of this work off of Amazon. This is one of maybe a half a dozen works that I've released that comes more than strongly recommended. It's an infamous work. It's quite famous. It's not like, Napoleon's Oraculum. I like the work a lot. I strongly recommend it, but you won't find many other people mentioning the fact that it's worth reading. With the Greater Key of Solomon, that's not the case. It's a very famous grimoire of the sort of high summoning rites, literally summoning demons. So if you want to do that, yeah, the Greater Key of Solomon and its counterpart that I will be working on soon, that's basically what you have to work with, or maybe like the Grand Grimoire or something like that. That's why it's so popular. Mathers is an interesting fellow altogether. I chose to use the slightly later edition, which is thankfully also out of copyright, as opposed to the original. This one has De Laurence putting in a bunch of stuff. Some of his editions were worth retaining. That's why I decided to use it. Most of it's just advertising for his own sales. Had a big picture of him at the beginning of this work, and it's just him sitting there very sternly with a highly decorative border. Some of his asides are clearly wrong. For instance, claiming that this work derives from 7 different Solomonic manuscripts within the ceremonial tradition. To claim that Solomon himself actually wrote this is clearly wrong. They're Renaissance-era rites. They come from, at earliest, the 14th century or 15th century, up through the 17th, maybe 18th century. And that's really the time frame that we're looking at. It's typical of magic from that era. It's similar to the summoning or the seals and philosophy you'd find in some of these other contemporary texts from the time. Of course, Mathers translated them into English. He redid the talismanic sort of seals the best that he could, and openly admits, well, some of these originals, the Hebraic characters and so forth, in them were not entirely accurate. I've done my best with my understanding of Hebrew to try to clean them up, which is highly appreciated. They did a good job in this, generally speaking. But most of De Laurence's editions, I just left them out. Yeah, I use that edition, but at the same time, it's only because of a couple of editions that he actually made that made it worth using that edition of the work instead of the true original from the end of the 1800s. So you're talking early 20th instead of late 19th century. Not a big difference, let's face it. But this work contains more than just summoning demons. Yes, it does allow you, as it says, to, yeah, you can summon all sorts of spirits. You can damage these spirits in a way similar to the Grand Grimoire, where the blasting rod of the operator, the term operator is used here as well, where the blasting rod or the wand is used to harm spirits that are being disobedient, repeatedly conjuring them, threatening them with various names of God, various angels and cosmic forces. It's the same in this work, only even more lengthy. Just the summoning alone is as long as the entire Grand Grimoire. Then there are 2 books within this book. There are also a variety of magical experiments. Then there's a fairly lengthy, the entire second book more or less is entirely about consecrating things, the demeanor and actions of the operator and his disciples or adepts or whatever you'd like to term, his pawns, the other people in the ritual. It says he can have a dog with him or a child, and that's actually better than having like this other group of adults there. I don't know why. It does contain some elements of the diabolical. While Mathers says at the beginning of the text, oh, I've left some stuff out because it was like evil, because anytime you're using blood, it's evil. Nonetheless, some of these rituals here do call for like the blood of a bat, sort of skin of a cat stuff, as well as unborn parchment. Now, unborn parchment's not the same as virgin parchment. Virgin parchment is, yeah, you took the lamb and you cut off its skin and cured it and so forth, and it's never been used before. Unborn parchment is made with either apparently the caul of an infant, which can be used like I guess the placental remains or the sac around the infant when they're born, like literally like human caul, or else the unborn kid or lamb, which has been miscarried and the mother's like dead, so you're like cutting it out, taking the skin off of that, and that's considered even more superior. So it does have some diabolical stuff in it, regardless of what Mathers wishes to say. The fact that it happens 90% of the time to be calling on angelic forces to constrain demons doesn't matter. Additionally, there's an experiment on, for instance, acquiring treasure, which means any material wealth in the earth, like ores. Gold ore or literally buried treasure that's guarded by what we would come to know as cryptids, by specifically gnomes and some of these creatures, which Mathers identifies. Oh yeah, up in Scandinavia they talk about this all the time. It comes from the Old Norse tradition, the idea that there were gnomes and elves and stuff, sort of invisibly wandering around in caves. This is why you have random sounds behind the cave walls when you're tunneling around for gold. It's actually spirits or something like that, and they can harm people, and so there's a ritual for protecting the workers there and making sure you find the treasure. There's mention of the magic carpet. Now, the magic carpet in this tradition isn't a flying carpet. It's a magical carpet that helps you to interrogate the intelligences, that is, the spirits. It gives you additional aid in doing so. There are various talismans, pentacles as they're referred to, that you can create. You can wear them. You can make them either on parchment or paper, or you can cast them with their respective metals dedicated to the 7 sort of planetary planets, although the moon and sun, of course, were considered planets back then. And you can use them for various purposes as well. It's a long work, it's an in-depth work. I meticulously edited my way through it because a lot of it was in Old English, or semi-Old English, sort of the Victorian English used when trying to be more archaic, to make things look like they were more authentic. I cleaned that up outside of the invocations. In the invocations, it's left in older English, because I didn't want to change anything. Anything that's perceived of as being an actual spell you're supposed to recite, I left that the same. I just cleared up like if there was a spelling error, and there were some mistakes in the work. Other than that, I've modernized it. I put in an elaborate forward there that should help to explain the text. It's been fully re-illustrated. And so it's definitely, this is one of, again, perhaps a dozen works that come beyond strongly recommended from me. It took quite a while to actually do this. It took several months of working in order to actually edit this manuscript. It is, though, definitely worth it. And like before, and this is why I'm optimistic about sales, I suppose, the only other edition of the work that's cheaper than mine and you can actually get in print is a facsimile copy. This always seems to happen. I don't know why people think that you need to charge $25, $30 for a paperback. And like, if it is cheap, if it's like $6 or $7, it ends up being a cheap facsimile, full of spelling errors and all the imperfections of the original. I don't understand it. I just don't get why people think that that's truly marketable long term. It's just a terrible idea, and I see this over and over and over again. Or they release some crazy edition, like again, the only other English version of the Petit Albert, like claims to be from Marie Laveau or something like that. You have this sort of weird mythology surrounding these things. So yes, I strongly recommend, if you're into this type of summoning and ceremonial magic, my edition is the best, bar none, that you can get as a paperback. It's simply the best. Again, link on Amazon in the description to where you can purchase this work for yourself, my edition of this work. Again, re-illustrated, modernized, everything cleaned up, looks good, not a facsimile, very important. Second link to my books blog. If you're into grimoires, there's a whole lot of other stuff there to choose from. powwows, the Petit Albert, the Arbatel, the Ars Notoria. It's literally all there. Greater Key of Solomon is just the most recent edition of a long string of very infamous works, but it happens to be one of the best. That's about all. Peace out.